and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy day today. I greatly appreciate it. Well, I think that we have a wonderful program for you today. We're going to highlight a museum that's based in Old Lyme, Connecticut, and it's called the Florence Griswold Museum. And I have the pleasure of having the director of the museum with me today as my guest, and it's Becky Beaulieu. And Becky, thank you so very much for being here today. I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me, Deborah.
Well, why don't we start from the beginning? Why don't you tell us about your background? Where do you come from? What have you been doing? And how did you become associated with the museum?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. So I've actually been working in museums for just over 20 years. I started when I was in high school, fell in love with working in museums, and originally I interned at the Florence Griswold Museum in Rockland, as well as the Milwaukee Art Museum in Wisconsin, which is where I grew up. My parents are originally from Maine, so I've always had New England blood, but it's been wonderful to come back here as my career has taken me further east. I've spent my entire life pretty much dedicated to museums. Academically, I went to George Washington University as an undergrad, where I was able to work at the Smithsonian, which was fabulous. And then following my undergraduate education, I moved on to back to Wisconsin for my first master's in art history and museum studies. And then I went on to do a second master's in arts administration at Columbia University in New York, followed by my PhD at BU in American Studies. So academically, I've always been very interested in the museum world and study of museums, and professionally as well. I've just found it extremely rewarding. I've been now at the Florence Griswold Museum, which is dedicated to the art, history, and nature of Connecticut and the United States, for just about 3 years now. So I'm thrilled to be here. It honestly speaks to so many of my personal interests and passions, and it's a fabulous team and site to be a part of.
I was thinking, I had a wonderful email from your director of marketing, not only about your background, that is part of probably your brochure, but your resume went on for 7 pages. And my thought was, did you know growing up that you wanted to get into the museum field? Is there something that drew you to it?
No, it's a great question. I didn't know too much about museums when I was growing up. I was a very, very heavy reader. I loved the arts in general, but I'm very lucky because I found what I wanted to do relatively early in life, about halfway through high school. And that really has directed basically everything I've done ever since. I went to an exhibition at the Farnsworth where I was later able to intern. And it was an exhibition that was on the 3 generations of Wyeth artists: N.C. Wyeth, Andrew Wyeth, and Jamie Wyeth. And it just was an absolutely incredible project. I loved so much about it. There were certain works that just absolutely spoke to me. And that really piqued my interest in museums, and I saw it relating to a lot of the work that had already appealed to me at that young age: reading and research and writing, and engagement with materials. So it spoke very heavily to me. I went on to really become interested in both fine art, specifically American art, as well as American architecture. And so that really helped me figure out what I was able to do and just follow the passion.
Did you think when you were following that passion that you would go into an education format, universities, et cetera, and pursue it as a professional goal from then on?
You know, it's interesting. When I was in high school and then early in college, when I knew that I wanted to work in museums already, my dream was essentially to be an educator or a curator. I think for many of us who work in the museum field, whatever your entry point is, you look at that as the end goal. So for me, it was essentially starting out and saying, I would just love to get a curatorial position. I just want, a master's degree. Everything that followed was really when I discovered this is an extremely difficult field to get into. And though my dozen or so unpaid internships were extremely helpful to me personally understanding this world, it's extremely hard to just get your foot in the door. So that's when I went on and kind of augmented the passion side with business. And that's when I went on to my second master's in arts administration. And that really helped me not just be able to hone a lot of the work that I was interested in academically and helped me feel comfortable then going on to a PhD, but it also helped me learn how to read a balance sheet and learn how to manage a budget and learn how to handle a staff. And all of those things that have actually helped me get to a level that I never really thought about when I was very early in my career. And I mean, every day, I'm one of those people, I get to wake up every day and I feel like I'm living a dream. So I absolutely adore it.
Now, as I was mentioning before, your resume is quite long, yet you look like a very young woman. How did you fit in all of those wonderful things that you have done? Because you've done a tremendous amount in your background that I can see.
Well, I really appreciate that, and apologies for making you read 7 pages on my background. But what I would offer is that a couple of things worked in my favor. One is I started quite young. So while my resume doesn't necessarily go back to age 16, I was able to start amassing meaningful and relevant experience at a young age that I think has really impacted me for the better. The second thing that's worked out is I've been able to find a couple of areas, pockets of our field that not a lot of other people were working on, namely finance and resource management. And that's allowed me to take on a lot of opportunities for teaching, for professional development, for board service, as well as my day jobs. I tend to be somebody that works well with firing on all cylinders and being engaged in a number of different ways. I find that not only does that help me continue to enhance my education and to learn and to grow, but I'm able to bring that back to my team at the museum and keep an eye on what's going on in the field. What should we be talking about? What are some things that colleague institutions are doing? Where are their potential collaborators and partners and things that we can speak to? So it's a brisk pace, but I love it. It's the way I like to work. And as long as it makes my museum as strong as possible and benefiting the staff and the public, then so be it. Happy to continue.
Well, this is a perfect time to take a break, and then we will come back and talk about the museum. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You've been tuned into Arts and Entertainment. We are going to take a break right now. We'll be right back.
So you think you're safe in your COVID bubble, huh? You don't wear your mask because you're around each other all the time and you trust each other. If only it were that simple. Let's say you go over to your neighbor's house. That's okay, right? They're in your bubble. But your neighbor goes to work and has a coworker that doesn't wear a mask over his nose. And that coworker has a family and grown children that also go to work. Your neighbor also has a close relative who goes to bonfires at another friend's house regularly, where everyone is close together but don't wear masks because they're outside, and they all have families and coworkers. That's just your neighbor. That doesn't include your neighbor's neighbors, or your sister, your aunt, your best friend, or even your dad. The point is, everyone you know has a network. Everyone in their network has a network, and it only grows from there. So when you think you're hanging out with just 10 people, you're really hanging out with 100, 500, maybe 1,000. We'd hate to burst your bubble, but you don't have one. So think twice before venturing out. Keep your guard and your mask up whenever you're around anyone who doesn't live in your immediate household, even if they're trusted family or friends. That's the best way to stay safe and healthy.
Hello and welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I am Deborah Gilbert, your host, and we continue to talk about the Florence Griswold Museum, which is based in Old Lyme, Connecticut, and Becky Beaulieu continues to be my guest today. She is the director. And Becky, thank you again for spending some time with us. We appreciate it.
Of course, thank you.
Perfect time to start talking about the Florence Griswold Museum. Tell us how special it is and what do you do there?
Well, the Florence Griswold Museum is in a league of its own. It is a truly unique institution. We have a long history dedicated to American art. We are specifically known for our strong collection of American Impressionism, particularly as it relates to the artists who came to and participated in the Lime Art Colony, which took place between approximately the end of the 19th century and 1920 or so. It was a meeting ground here on site for artists to come to create. They were drawn here by the light, the incredible location along the Lieutenant River. And it was a wonderful group and really, I think, engaging opportunity for the artists to come, as often they were traveling from New York to Boston or the other way, to experience respite in Connecticut, to be inspired by the particular landscape that we have here along the river. Since it became a museum, and especially over the tenure of my predecessor, the long-serving director, and now director emeritus, Jeffrey Anderson, it really became known as a hub for the inquiry into the artist colony movement in America and American Impressionism. Over the past 3 years, we've been able to attend to that history and that heritage here, while also bringing in more attention to contemporary artists, to really engaging our collection through new scholarship and new disciplinary lenses, and to really find a way that we're both honoring those artists, Miss Florence herself, and the ongoing artistic heritage and identity of Connecticut.
And I'm glad that you mentioned Florence's name. Tell us about Florence Griswold herself.
So Miss Florence, as we call her, is Florence Griswold. It is the namesake of our entire institution here. And she was the woman who owned the property at the time that the artist colony took place. Miss Florence was not someone with an extremely articulated artistic background, that she was appreciative and she definitely was involved, but rather she was someone who was not great with finances. And that's something that she learned from her father, who was a sea captain and also not so great with managing his money. So they had this beautiful 1817 Georgian mansion here in Old Lyme. And soon Miss Florence used the house as a boarding house in which she would welcome people in, travelers along the way, and she would host them on their journey here at the museum. When she had the opportunity to host Henry Ward Ranger, he actually came here. And as an artist, he saw, oh my gosh, this is a fantastic site for painting. And it was through his invitation, the other artists started to come, and the Lime Art Colony was founded. Miss Florence was never great with her money. And unfortunately, she lost the property early in the 20th century. But the artists rallied for her, and they absolutely loved her. My favorite story about Miss Florence is that the artists at one point, when she could not pay her property taxes, decided to raise support for Miss Florence and to give her the money to pay the property taxes. And she got this sum of money and thought, oh, this is so great. Thank you, everyone. I could use a new fence out front. And she went and built the fence in front of the house instead of paying the property tax. So I think we see that she was a free spirit. She was an independent woman, and she was the hostess to so many of our incredible artists of the late 19th and early 20th century here in America.
Did the Florence Griswold location, or Miss Florence, in that world, did people think that they wanted to stop in Old Lyme and spend some time and paint there? I mean, did people gravitate to that location?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was something that very early on, when Henry Ward Ranger came, he was primarily a tonalist artist. And the tonalism movement is one that is very nature focused, but you can always tell a tonalist work because it's very earth toned. It's going to be in a lot of browns and neutrals. And as he worked here and other artists came to the site, and probably the best known artist was Childe Hassam, it increasingly became known as a center of work in the Impressionist style, which is very much gestural. It's very colorful. And again, what's the common theme between tonalism and impressionism is that it is something that is very much based on the artist's impressions of nature. So today when you come to the Florence Griswold Museum, and something I definitely wanted to make sure to mention is that last year we opened our artist trail. It's the Robert F. Schumann Artist Trail. And what we encourage you to do is to take an interpreted walk through the grounds, the 12 acres of the site, and really look at it through the lens of the artistic experience. We even have a spot where we believe, according to archaeological research that took place in the 1990s, was the approximate location of Child Hastam's studio on site. We've actually marked that in a granite perimeter. We encourage you to come and simply stand there and to consider all the work that was created there, and to also look around and see what inspired the artists so much that they came back year in and year out as a community to really forward the American Impressionist movement here in Old Lyme.
When someone hears this interview today and decides that they want to come and visit the museum, what will they see when they pull in the driveway?
Well, first of all, what a great question. I think that when you come to the Florence Griswold Museum, I think there are some things that we hear repeatedly that we take a lot of pride in as our visitors share with us. The first is that it's a really multifaceted experience here. We have the National Historic Landmark boarding house, Miss Florence's home, her residence. So we have a very strong historic house museum program that is hosted by docents and attendants that provides some great insights and a doorway into the turn of the 20th century in New England. But additional to that, we have our Kriebel Gallery, which hosts special exhibitions and right now hosts Expanding Horizons, which is celebrating 20 years of a gift of art from the Hartford Steam Boiler Company. We also have a celebration of 100 years, the centennial of the Lyme Art Association, which was founded by Miss Florence and the artists as an opportunity to sell the works that they made here in Old Lyme. And then we also have our grounds, which have increasingly become a mode of operation for us, not just in terms of the space on which the buildings are situated, but also opportunity for interpretation themselves. So we encourage you to explore the Artist Trail, to explore our Landscape Center, and to explore our historic gardens, all of which is open year-round to our visitors. So I would say that that's probably something that you would notice. I would also think that you'd probably really enjoy the people here at the Florence Griswold Museum. We are inclusive. We are looking out for making sure that you have the best experience that you could possibly have. And there's a reason why we're many people's favorite museum. We're both all of the pride, all of the community of a small museum, but with the scholarship and the rigor and the expansive thinking of a larger institution, all in one place.
Well, we have a very interesting time in our history, which is COVID. Has it affected your museum, your people, what you're doing there? What does your future look like?
Oh, absolutely. We were in a position where, like many of our colleague institutions in mid-March, we had to close down. We were not able to entertain visitors for the first time in our history, not knowing when we would be able to reopen, and it was very challenging. But through the hard work of our team, the support of our board, and then a lot of advisement that we received through the Shoreline Arts Alliance and our colleagues there who put together a task force to navigate COVID and resumption. We were able to draft a business resumption plan based under the guidance of Sten Vermund, who is the dean of the Yale School for Public Health. He came and did a site visit here for about 2 hours before we reopened to the public on July 1st. And it was a great opportunity for us to make sure that we were doing everything we possibly could to keep our staff and our visitors safe. We've been fortunate to be open since July 1st. At this point, we are still functioning at about a 30% capacity level, and we're asking visitors to make reservations about 24 hours in advance. But so far, so good. We have visitors who are very mindful, good citizens, and as long as we're able to have people here safely, we will continue to do so. And if anything, I think like many institutions, for those of us who are able to weather this storm as we are doing through the support of our community, we anticipate a future that this will inform our empathy, our inclusiveness, and our ability to be resilient into the future.
Well, I have had the pleasure of visiting the museum and the grounds several times, and I think Christmas and your trees and your celebration there is wonderful. But I also noticed that you have a cafe. Can people eat and drink there while they're there?
So we have our cafe, Cafe Flow, which is a seasonal cafe. And so that is outdoors, and it is usually open from May through October. This year, because of our closure, we had to delay our season a little bit. But what I can tell you is that we were packed at a lower capacity, but packed from our reopening in July right until the end of the season. What we do now, which is really fun for us, is during the holiday season, we host what we call the Magic of Christmas. We have our pallet trees in the Kriebel Gallery, and then we also have additional decorations in the Florence Griswold house. And as an offering to our guests, and again, this is by reservation, we have Christmas time teas that we host throughout the month of December. And we are continuing to do so this month. They are fabulous. They are, again, hosted by Gourmet Galley, who also provides all the food service for the cafe during the summer months. And it has already become a holiday tradition for many of our visitors, and we certainly encourage you to join us for that.
And I know that I have had the pleasure of visiting your gift store.
Yeah.
Do you find that you are bringing in gifts from different parts of the country to be able to enhance the location there?
Oh my gosh. Well, we bring in gifts from all over the world to enhance the experience there. In fact, we have some incredible works in our gift shop this year that were made by German artisans. And as many of you may know, Germany has an extremely strong history of craftsmanship, particularly around the holiday season. So we encourage all of you to stop by. You do not need a reservation to visit our shop here, which, by the way, earlier this year did win, I believe in 2019, won a Museum Store Association award for its quality. So you can stop by anytime if you'd like to do some gift shopping for the holiday season, or you can visit us online, and we're happy to help you place an order that way as well.
Speaking of online, how is the website? What will they find when they go there?
Well, the website has become an increasingly important engagement tool for us. So while you'll be able to go to the website and get information about your visit, to plan your reservation, to see our calendar of events, both on-site and virtual, it's increasingly become a hub for us to be able to directly reach out to those who are unable to join us or uncomfortable doing so in person, which we completely understand. So you'll be able to find both the opportunity to register for online educational programs. We have a host of virtual programs that you can enjoy right from the comfort of home, and we certainly encourage you to do so. And likewise, since the beginning of 2020, we have created a virtual tour of every single exhibition that we have hosted here at the museum. And that's something that we plan on continuing to do into the future. It's a great way for you to view the works in detail that are in each of our exhibition spaces, including the house, as well as to review some of the additional and supplementary materials to do with the research on the works that we didn't have any space to cover in the house. So that's increasingly become a resource for us, and we hope that you will enjoy that as well.
Well, we are starting to wind down this wonderful interview, and thank you so very much for sharing all about the museum. Why don't we have some closing thoughts? What would you like the viewer to know?
Please support your local museums right now. It's a challenging time for us all. For those of us that are open, we appreciate your patience as the visit may look a little bit different. But we at the Florence Griswold Museum could not be happier to be able to welcome you in during this difficult time. We museums as a field are a resource to you. We are a place that you can come and enjoy spirit, you can enjoy humanity, you can be educated, and you can have fun. So never forget that we are always here for you, even during the difficult times.
Well, I thank you very much for spending time with us today. It's been a wonderful interview, and I know that my viewer has loved learning about the Florence Griswold Museum.
Thank you so much for having me, Deborah. I really appreciate it.
And you've been tuned into Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert. We've been talking about the Florence Griswold Museum, and Becky Beaulieu, the director, has been my guest. I hope you have a terrific day. Thanks for spending time. We'll see you again soon.